This is Jane for Outside Xbox, joined by Brian Miller. Hi Brian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so tell us about your role on the Star Trek game, because you work across Paramount Pictures and also on the game.
Yeah, so I'm Senior Vice President at Paramount Pictures, but I'm also the game producer. So in my spare time, I've been putting together our lovely Star Trek game here.
It's quite a hobby.
It's quite a hobby. It certainly takes us all hours, but really our role is, we wanted to make sure we made a game that really lived up to what Star Trek was and what the new vision of Star Trek is. And in order to do that, we felt like we had to make this game from internal at Paramount. We've been very, key and influential in the story, and just really the whole process has sort of come back through Paramount as we've driven everybody to get what we think is a great game out to you.
The game isn't based on the first film or the second film. It's chronologically set between the two films.
Right.
And you've got likenesses of Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto, and the rest of the cast as well?
Yeah, we wanted to make sure we made the most authentic version of a Star Trek in a game that you possibly could, and the only way to do that, was to make sure we had the entire cast. And we were very fortunate. We reached out to them early on and said, hey, we're making this game. This game is going to be an original story. It takes place between the two films. It's something that's definitely canon, so it is official Star Trek. And we reached out to every cast member and said, do you want to be a part of this? And we were really lucky. They all called us back and said, yes, we absolutely want to be a part, but only if everybody else is involved.
Mr. Scott, prepare to transport.
Aye, aye, sir.
Energize.
And I think that shows how important it was for them that the crew recreates their role.
Is Chris Pine a gamer?
Yeah, Chris was great. Chris really gave us a lot of great advice. We sat down with him, we showed him the game, and he was really excited because he had more than just his normal phaser to play with. The phaser's this little small thing, and he was like, oh my God, now I get some really cool badass weapons, and he was really excited about that.
Because that's something you have to steer a little bit, because the recent Star Trek movie, there's not a lot of guns in that. It's not really a big shooter of a movie.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things we discussed about. I mean, we discussed this game back when we were still making the last movie in 2009 and said, how do we get this new rebooted world into the gaming space? And we had a lot of conversations about what kind of game we wanted to make and what was true to Star Trek or not. And you're right, Star Trek's never really been about running around and shooting things for a lot of hours, but Star Trek's always been about great action set pieces. So we wanted to make a nice balance between what you could play in a game, but also what you expected with Star Trek, which is exploration and discovery and optimism.
And you say it's also canon, so this is all official. Who puts the stamp of approval on it? Who makes it canon? Who signs off on it?
And we made sure, we worked very closely with everybody on the writing side to make sure that this was something that lived closely. CBS has been a big part of Star Trek since the early days, and we've worked with them. They know the brand better than anybody, and we wanted to make sure that this was canon. It was something that wasn't just a throwaway. It wasn't just a novel that you picked up. It was like, okay, maybe that did or didn't happen. This literally is part of that timeline.
Okay, it's not like that Star Wars thing where there's different grades of canon, where this is sort of semi-canonical and nothing like that.
No. This is
official.
Absolutely official. This is what happened in between.
Okay, and it leads, well, I don't know if it does lead into the second film. It takes place before the second film. Will it lead into the second film? Will there be anything that links up with how the second film starts?
Well, we wanted to, I'll be very careful here because I can't spoil too much stuff or they will hunt me down, but we wanted to make sure this was a standalone piece. We wanted you to be able to play it and not feel as if we were being sort of coy with you and saying, oh, it's going to lead into whatever. But we do have a lot of really cool Easter eggs that not only harken back to old Star Trek and some of the things we've done, like bringing the Gorn back, but also to the 2009 movie. And there may be a couple little hints and surprises when you play the game. You've
actually had some Star Trek fans in here tonight, I know, who are obviously way more versed in the intricacies of Star Trek canon. Have they been asking you about Khan and Benedict Cumberbatch?
No, fortunately, I've
really?
been spared the question that I get asked basically in every interview of what's going on there. So yes, I've been very fortunate to avoid.
Oh good, oh good. Well, you see, I phrased that in such a way where I didn't actually ask it because I know you're not going to answer it. So.
She asked it and I didn't answer it.
What I was going to ask you about is the Gorn, the race, the alien race in the game. They are originally in the TV series, but they have been revised a little bit. Tell us about their origins and how they're slightly different from the TV series.
Yeah, I mean, we got together again at the very initial meeting and said, what kind of game do we want to make? And we knew, because it was Kirk and Spock and we wanted to tell their story, we want to make a co-op game. The next question came up of, well, who do we want them to fight? And the Gorn were absolutely our first choice because there's something about that episode, Arena, that really has stuck around for so long. I mean, it's unbelievably well written, but if you look at the production values now, it's a guy in a rubber suit, and it's one of the most beloved fight scenes that have ever happened. And we wanted to take them and bring them into a new space. How do you take something that everybody knows and loves and flesh them out? Can we give them a culture? Can we give them a whole race that we can do? So we have over 15 different species of Gorn in the game, everything from commanders to infantry to female Gorn who do some really crazy stuff that change up gameplay.
Speaking of references to the TV show, you mentioned in your presentation a little bit of co-op, not cooperative, in fact, competitive, a little bit Spock on Kirk. Tell us about that as much as you can.
Yeah, so we tried to make sure the co-op was infused throughout the game. I mean, we wanted to make a game that really Kirk and Spock were at the center of and, you know, really have to work together. And the great relationship that Kirk and Spock have has always been sort of butting heads. So when you play the game, you'll hear this great banter back and forth as they're arguing with each other, because that's what Kirk and Spock do.
I like this one. There are a few that you do not like, Captain.
But we thought it would be fun that if you had to play with, you know, a co-op partner, whether it's the computer or whether you're online or somebody sitting on the couch next to you, and you've played for hour and after hour and you've had to help this guy out, what would happen if we took the ultimate co-op away from you? What if we made you have to fight your other partner? So that was really a big task for us from a story writing standpoint. It's like, how do we get Kirk and Spock, who were supposed to be crew members, to fight? So there's been a great episode called Amok Time, which was one of the classic Star Trek episodes where that actually happened. So we don't use the device that they used to get them to fight, but we certainly have a nod to that moment that I think if you're a gamer, you're just going to be happy because you've played for 8 hours. Now you want to, you know, beat up your friend who you've been trying to fight. But also to that hardcore fan who will look at that and go, okay, they're giving a reference to something that we know and love, and it's kind of cool that they did that.
You know, if we weren't trying to save the entire universe, this might actually be fun.
Okay, as much as I'd love to press on, I can see the wrap it up sign over there. So finally, who is superior, Spock or Kirk?
Who is superior?
Who's superior?
It's Spock. Spock is faster, he's smarter,
Right.
but I would take Kirk in a gunfight any day.
Really?
I would.
Really?
I
Okay,
would.
so you'll be playing as...
I normally play as Kirk, but I think Spock is fun.
Okay, great. Well, that's the correct answer. So Spock is the superior character. So thank you.
I
for
think
confirming
his
that
race
on
is
the record.
superior.
So